Seeing as this is the 25th anniversary of Prince's album Come being released, I thought we would go ahead and discuss it a bit here. Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. Don't forget to follow us on social media. That's at Prince's Friend YT on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hopefully you're enjoying the new setup here. This is kind of a desk setup that I'm trying. We'll see if this sticks, but I'm liking it today if nothing else. And as I mentioned before, it is the 25th anniversary of Come being released. So I wanted to talk about it, but I wanted to figure out what I wanted to say. Because I've already done the review for Come, and if you haven't seen that, I will link that in probably either the comments or the description, one of the two. Maybe it'll be here. But the main thing is that it was an interesting kind of introspective, sexual, and yet very socially aware album that was released in 1994. But did you know that it was released originally with a different track sequencing? That's what I wanted to share with you guys today, because the slight tweaks to the sequencing and the songs that are included in the order does actually, for me at least, change a lot of the meaning of the album. So we're gonna go through those today and talk about some of the differences. Before we do that, definitely don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you always know when Prince's Friend releases a brand new video. Okay, to start off, we should probably talk about what songs are included. The first track is called Poem, second track is Interactive, third is Endorphin Machine. Then it goes to Space, Pheromone, Loose, Papa, Race, Dark, Solo. Those are all in the original order and pretty much the same versions that we've had on the Come album that was released. But it ends with Strays of the World. So that honestly might not look like a huge difference like on paper. But for me, again, anytime I listen to an album, I'm always looking for a journey. I'm always trying to figure out what kind of story is being told, because Prince was always about telling a good story. The album starts with the first track called Poem. And in this case, all of the little snippets of the oceans and him speaking, all of those little bits that are separated on its eventual commercial release are actually all together on one track with Orgasm, which is the track that ends that release as well. Instead of you getting one line of the poem for each song, you end up with it all together, and it's actually a kind of a pretty poem, especially as you hear the escalation of the backing music and the waves. They are crashing harder, the music is coming more, and it's hard to actually hear that when it's all cut up. Like, you don't really hear the increasing of the intensity, but it's definitely there when you hear it all together. And it's an interesting way to start an album, because it's 3.5 minutes of waves, Prince speaking, and then an orgasm. It's one thing to finish off an album with that, but to start off an album with that is a huge statement. Then he laughs at the end of the poem and it launches into Interactive, and it's largely the same song Interactive that we've heard off of Crystal Ball. And then it goes from Interactive into Endorphin Machine, which actually makes a lot of sense. During around this time, while Prince was promoting a lot of The Most Beautiful Girl in the World and whatnot, he would perform Interactive and Endorphin Machine as back-to-back songs. Almost like, I guess in his mind, they really did belong together because they were together here. And from Endorphin Machine, of course, which is one of my all-time favorite Prince tracks from the Gold Experience, you hear it fade into space. And it's weird because going from Come to Space never necessarily felt all that natural, but going from Endorphin Machine to space, and it flows so beautifully right into space. Like, you knew that this was the way that it was sequenced, and when he ended up putting the Gold Experience out, it just kind of felt a little bit chopped there at the end of Endorphin Machine, where then it jumps into We March, which again, it just didn't flow the same way. Not a bad choice, but it definitely flowed really well here. And then honestly, we get the rest of the album that we would expect. It goes from Space to Pheromone to Loose to Papa to Race to Dark to Solo. The biggest difference, however, is that because all of the little snippets of poem have been taken out and they're all in the first track, you don't have the respite of the poem that kind of makes it so that you want to keep going and you want to keep hearing, and it softens a lot of these harder edge songs. It's not bad, it's just outside of what I was expecting. It just goes from one song to the next, like a regular album, instead of it really feeling like an overall experience, because we took the overall experience and we threw it all into the first track. And then instead of Let It Go ending the album, Prince was going to end this originally with Strays of the World. That's right. That means that this Come album did not have a song called Come on it, which is very weird. And that also makes the sequencing of this kind of album super important. When I reviewed this album originally, I talked about the journey that it took us on. It basically started off kind of giving us an idea of where Prince was in his life at the time and what he was trying to leave behind, and then it ended with Let It Go, meaning he eventually was able to do that, and it was really, really cool. And of course at the end there's this huge orgasm, which is like, oh my gosh, I'm finally getting this thing that I want, and it's finally happening. If we take this journey though, with this sequencing of song, it's almost like the poem states right up front, love and sex are the same thing, we're having fun, it's amazing, and the huge explosion of the orgasm, and then it's interrupted by interactive. An endorphin machine, essentially saying that technology and the internet are going to bring us to brand new heights. Following that up with Space, Pheromone, and Loose, it's essentially an exploration of like all the love and the sex and the dance and everything that you can get through the internet and technology. Then, as of course we all know, the internet is a way for you to meet people you've never met, and you can also learn about so many terrible things that are happening in the world as well. Hence, Papa, Race, Dark, Solo, all of these songs that are actually about sadness and hurt. And these are all of the things that you experience when you are going out of your way to kind of interact with all these different people. But Prince can't stand for that. And for me, that actually makes Strays of the World the perfect last track, because it's him saying, we're having an amazing time here. You should come here. All the strays of the world, all of you who are in the dark, all of you who feel solo, all of you who are discriminated against based on your race, or you are abused. Come to me, come here, and I will take care of you. And I think that honestly, this sequencing of songs, despite the fact that it doesn't have Come on it, that's weird as hell to me. But really, if you were to have given me this album instead, I would have been like, yeah, I'm on board. This is amazing. This is a great album. So those are my thoughts on the original sequencing of the album Come, and I would love to hear what you guys think about that. So if you haven't heard, obviously, this arrangement, it doesn't really matter. If you have these songs, which are primarily from Come and Crystal Ball, go and sequence them in this order. And I want you to try them out, listen to them in this order a couple of times, and then come back and let me know how you would have felt if you would have gotten this album versus the one that we got. Because a lot of people discounted Come when it came out in 1994. A lot of people were like, this just seems like a bunch of throwaway tracks, which, again, it wasn't. It's tracks that he had already done, but, I mean, and he didn't promote it. That's the big issue. But it really was a fully realized album. But this also is a fully realized version of that same album, which speaks volumes on how sequencing can do different things, and how, like Prince said, albums still matter. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. Let's continue the discussion down there. Otherwise, don't forget to check us out on social media, as I mentioned before, and hit up our Patreon, patreon.com/princessfriend. That's where you can support the channel and keep us going strong. Otherwise, may you live to see the dawn. I love you all.